Okay. The time is 2 p.m. and I will call the Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 regular council meeting to order. And I will begin with a land acknowledgement that the City of Fort Saskatchewan is located within Treaty 6 territory and Métis Nation of Alberta Region 4, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Nihilwak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Métis. And we acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. It is because of our treaty relationship that we can live, work, and play on Treaty 6 territory. All right, so we have nothing under consent agenda, so we will move directly to number 3, approval of the April 25th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Macon.
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes of the April 25th, 2023 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. Are there any errors or omissions? Not seeing any. I will close the motion. Please cast your vote.
Your Worship, we're just waiting for Councillor Abertoye.
Okay, that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. There is no delegations registered, and looking in the audience, I don't see anybody who isn't staff, so I don't anticipate anybody would be coming up to speak as part of a delegation. So we will go straight on to new business, RCMP annual policing, and welcome Corrine Rayner and Sergeant Hagen.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Corrine Rayner and I'm the Director of Protective Services for the City. Presenting with me is Staff Sergeant Terry Hagen. Terry has served as a detachment commander in both Vegreville and Elk Point and is our operations commander overseeing the general duty policing. Inspector Larocque sends his regrets as he is attending the Alberta Association of Police Chiefs meeting this week and was unable to attend today. We are here to present to you the year-end RCMP annual performance plan and to set the policing priorities for the coming year. As one policing priority cycle ends, another begins, and Staff Sergeant Hagen will present to you some of the outcomes of each of the priorities from last year and present the new proposed policing priorities for 2023-2024, with a request for Council to adopt these priorities. The new APP priorities will set the path for the RCMP to provide effective policing for our community in the upcoming year. And through public engagement, it ensures that their members focus on issues the public identifies as important in our community. There has been a lot of great work done by our RCMP members over and above their general duty response to calls for service. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Staff Sergeant Hagen for the presentation of the RCMP performance plan.
Thank you for the introduction, Director Rayner. Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council members. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak with you this afternoon. Today I'll be speaking with you about this year's proposed annual policing plan. First, however, I would like to provide a brief overview of our detachment services and operations, as well as some statistics and trends of interest. I'll then summarize last year's performance plan and results, followed by this year's proposed priorities. You'll note our org chart posted above and our detachment on the RCMP side is falling under Inspector Larocque, and from there, there's two different sides of the house. Mine being operations. I oversee the general duty policing with 4 watches. Each watch has 4 supervisor corporals and is staffed with constables. On the support side of the house, our support ops NCO is Sergeant James Skew, and he oversees our general investigations, traffic and crime reduction, domestic violence, and our school resource officer, as well as our crime prevention victim services sides as well. The total municipal RCMP officers have 31 budgeted positions, currently with 2 surplus to establishment positions. These positions are not assigned, however, they're temporarily backfilling some other shortages that exist due to members being off on sick leave or on graduated return to work. Currently, there's 3 members on extended sick leave and 5 members at various stages of graduated return to work. One of the Watch 3 constable positions was turned into a general investigations investigator by the previous detachment management. Therefore, that watch is only carrying 5 constables instead of 6. Our detachment is nearing its ceiling of 31 municipally budgeted positions. However, we will ensure these won't be exceeded through managing transfers, officers who are off-duty sick, and those on our graduated return to work program. There are a total of 8 provincially funded officers working out of our detachment as well as 2 administrative public service positions. The detachment works on a post concept, and that means that the available officers will respond anywhere in our service area, regardless of how their positions are funded. This increases flexibility in scheduling and provides increased resource efficiency. Our traffic and crime reduction units, general investigations, crime prevention victim services, and school resource officers, along with the management team, assist the watches when the call volume grows past the watch capacity to handle them. We offer 24-hour policing to the community, meaning that there are officers working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Fort Saskatchewan Detachment has its own dispatchers that work from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. 6 days a week, with the exception of Sunday. During the off time, calls are dispatched from our operational communication center out of Edmonton. Having local call evaluation and dispatching in the community provides enhanced services to get the appropriate responses dispatched to within the area. Our administrative staff and protective services analysts assist RCMP and municipal enforcement officers and are essential to our policing services within the community. Our calls for service have been relatively stable for the past 5 years, with our members responding to a total of 10,737 calls in 2022 overall. 7,706 of those were within the city of Fort Saskatchewan. Calls for service include officer self-generated, complaints from the public, 911 calls, and requests from other law enforcement agencies to assist. We're fortunate to have an in-house analyst who's able to provide real-time data and analysis of crime trends and helping to identify where to focus our enforcement efforts. Our police to population ratio for 2022 was 839 officers per citizen, or per member. 839 citizens per officer. Our criminal code file count was 67 files per member. A bit of a snapshot on some of the crime trends we've seen. As a result of the lockdowns in 2021, we saw a significant reduction in property crimes and an increase in persons crimes. As lockdowns ended in 2022, we saw these numbers return to normal, and as a result, it appears there was an increase in property crimes and a reduction in persons crimes in 2022. The impact of the lockdowns in 2021 caused a transverse effect in 2022 as a result of the lifting of restrictions, meaning that we returned to our numbers that we currently saw prior to the lockdown in 2022. Break and enter, there were 51 more instances of break and enter in the municipality in 2022 than in 2021. When you look at the 5-year trend, however, the overall trend is relatively stable. We only saw a 4% decrease on the 5-year. Across the board, 2021 saw a decrease in all property crimes, and our 2022 numbers are closer to the 2020 numbers. COVID restrictions could be the reason for the decrease in property crimes. Change in situational factors, more people staying at home due to COVID restrictions. Theoretically, it makes harder targets and less opportunity for property-related crimes. Thefts of motor vehicle, we saw 23 more instances of vehicle thefts than in 2021. But when looking at the 5-year trend, it's a 15% increase when compared to 2018. Theft under 5,000, we had 37 more instances than 2021. However, compared to 2018, there's been a 25% decrease in the thefts under. Our rural areas and the city saw a reduction in person crimes when compared to 2021. However, the 5-year trend is suggesting an upwards trend compared to 2018 for most persons crimes. A brief snapshot of our provincial outlying areas as well. We saw 24 more instances of break and enter in 2022 than 2021. However, the overall 5-year trend indicated a 38% decrease. Theft of motor vehicle, 30 more instances this year in 2022 than 2021. However, the trend on a 5-year was stable with only a 1% increase. Thefts under 5,000, 26 more instances of theft under 5,000 than in 2021. However, on the 5-year, it was a 19% decrease in thefts. Rural areas in the city saw a reduction in persons crimes when compared to 2021. However, the 5-year trend is suggesting an upwards trend for most serious persons crimes, once again. A bit of information about our crime severity index. The above chart shows the crime severity index values for Fort Saskatchewan detachment from 2015 to 2021. This index measures the overall seriousness of crime from one year to the next by tracking both the prevalence of crime within the community and the seriousness of those crimes committed. Overall, in the last year, we've seen a 14.7% decrease in the severity of crime in the city. The CSI values for municipal and provincial Fort Saskatchewan is consistently trending downwards. Likely, the overall reduction in property crimes over the past 5 years is contributing to this downward trend in the crime severity index as well. The CSI is evaluated every July by Statistics Canada, and the 2022 values will be available in July of 2023. Fort Saskatchewan Municipal has 2021 CSI value of 66.8. The overall CSI in Alberta is 101.4. This is 34.6 points below the provincial average. In municipal Fort Saskatchewan, the top 3 contributors to the decrease in our CSI value are break and enter, possession and stolen goods, and drug enforcement and trafficking. In municipal Fort Saskatchewan, the top 3 contributing factors for the 2021 CSI value are fraud, theft under, and mischief to property. Fort Saskatchewan Provincial has a 2021 CSI value of 124.1. It is higher in the outlying areas. The overall CSI in Alberta is again 101.4. It's about 22 points higher. In provincial Fort Saskatchewan, the top 3 contributing factors to the decrease are break and enter, theft of motor vehicle, and offensive weapons, and the downward trend of those. In provincial Fort Saskatchewan, the top 3 contributing factors to the CSI in 2021 are break and enter, possession of stolen goods, and fraud. These scores are below the provincial average. In some of the other communities I've served in, I've seen in excess of 200, 250. So we do have a quite low crime severity index here. Now I'll speak a little bit about our annual policing priorities that were set out for last year and the results. The annual policing priorities are developed using real crime data and public feedback to understand community priorities and areas of focus. RCMP work in consultation with City Council to determine top policing priorities of our community. The annual priorities for 2022-2023 were traffic safety, police community relations, crime reduction, domestic violence, and employee wellness. A few highlights of those priorities. Under the Traffic Safety Initiative, the option 4 education programs, there were 3 of those ran, meaning there were 95 tickets written 89% of those chose option 4. We had 12 joint traffic enforcement operations conducted, and efforts continue to work towards Vision Zero, although there was one fatality within the city last year. Police community relations, we had 100 proactive check stops that were conducted throughout the year. Proactive community contacts were undertaken through our victim services and community policing sections. The target goal was 96, and we actually achieved 216 of those initiatives last year. Our school resource officer presentations, we targeted 60 of those, and we ended up having 123. So an excellent job was done of police community relations last year from our office. Crime reduction, one of the initiatives was to monitor compliance checks for court-ordered conditions, and our target was 730. We achieved 105. I'm not certain that this was a realistic goal, and however, that was set by the previous detachment management, and we are going to reevaluate that going forward this year. It is still a priority. We need to enforce those who are on conditions in our community. So going forward, that's going to continue on. Monitoring and tracking the number of patrols in determined hotspots. Our target was 48, and we achieved 32 of those. So the hotspot patrols will continue on as well. Under the domestic violence category that was laid out last year, our domestic violence coordinator was intending to host 4 educational programs in partnership with Victim Services and Families First. The target was 4 of those programs, and there were 8 of them completed. Domestic violence coordinator also partnered to provide education and resources to people involved in domestic violence and to further educate the members and to provide aid to victims of domestic violence. I don't have the stats on that, but I can attest that this work occurs and did occur on a daily basis. Our domestic violence coordinator works each and every day. Whenever a file of this nature comes in, it is examined closely, and we develop and work on ways to help assist those clients on an ongoing basis. Last year, employee wellness and respectful workplace was also identified as a priority. We organized a wellness committee within the detachment, and the wellness committee has shepherded many events to help foster good morale within our detachment. Some might wonder why this would be set as a priority within our detachment for policing, and my answer to that is staff members who are healthy and stable and doing well are going to be productive and going to do the best job they can with the clients that we serve. So this year, however, that priority will still continue to work, but we're not electing to set that as one of our priorities. So I'll speak a little bit going forward about this year's priorities and how we've come to identify them. Community consultation has taken place over the past several months through town hall meetings, community events, our policing committee, crime prevention victim services engagement, and crime data analysis. After community consultations with Fort Saskatchewan, Bruderheim, Lamont County, and Chipman, and the policing committee, the new 2023-24 annual priority performance plan has been completed and is anchored by 3 priorities. Our proposed priorities are traffic safety, police community relations, and property crime reduction. Each priority is accompanied by initiatives and measures. Throughout the year, the detachment can adapt the APP to new or changing priorities that could arise. However, the work last year on domestic violence and member wellness priorities did not make this year's APP, but they won't be abandoned, and they won't be reported, however, on this year's APP. We'll continue to work on them. Initiatives have been identified for each priority as follows. Under traffic safety, we are planning to implement joint enforcement operations, road safety presentations, focused impaired driving enforcement. Under our police community relations priority, community events and meetings, detachment social media initiative. And under our property crime reduction, the CAPTURE program, which is a community surveillance registry, and crime prevention presentations, or CPTED. It means crime prevention through environmental design. and compliance checks. Those are the priorities that we have suggested, and with council's approval, we'll carry forward with. I thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation, Staff Sergeant Hagan and Ms. Rayner. So I will open it up to questions at this point in time. So I can kick it off. Okay. I'll come to Councillor Macon in a minute. So the question that I have is when you talk about your staffing that you have, and I know you mentioned 2 surplus to establishment, but you've got 3 on extended leave and 5 on graduated return to work. So are the 2 surplus to establishment able to meet the needs and the coverage, or is that something that as a growing city we should be looking towards increasing the surplus to establishment?
We are currently meeting the staffing levels. However, we do have several positions right now that are being filled by these surplus to establishment members. They are helping to supplement some of the shortages that we're experiencing due to those off-duty members, whether they be on sick leave or graduated return to work. And we have to gauge that on a daily basis because the GRW members are still able to contribute to varying degrees to policing. Some of them are on administrative capacity or partly administrative capacity. And while they return to work, some will take only a few weeks, some may take months to get them back to full-time duties. However, these STE positions are augmenting that. And furthermore, the city is billed for the actual working hours rather than the positions that are being held.
Okay, no, and I asked that because several years ago we had discovered, even though we had like 20 some staff, we only had 12 boots on the ground, and we said, well, what happened? And that's where we went through saying surplus to establishment. But anyway, my second question is with the break and enters and those offenders. Do you believe it's the same offenders that are going out there? And because I read quite often, the officers are catching these people, but then they're released like right away. So is it the belief that a lot of these may be the same offenders?
Absolutely, Your Worship. We're aware of the majority of the offenders that are committing these crimes, and as within most communities, it's a small number that are doing the majority of the crimes. And we are quite successful at catching up with them. No, we don't solve all of them, but we solve a significant portion, and we do compel them to court. However, where they go from there is out of our control.
Okay.
But yes, I agree.
Thank you. Councillor Macon?
Thank you for your presentation tonight. You just made a comment about on traffic safety joint enforcement initiatives. I'm just wondering who's that with? Is that with municipal enforcement, our regional counties that surround us? And then on top of that, what type of initiatives are good fits for collaboration work?
Yes, absolutely. Our joint initiatives involve municipal enforcement, and we work with them daily, side by side, as well. We have our regional traffic services out of Strathcona Detachment. They're based there. However, they work in our area quite often, and we get monthly reports from them as well as far as the enforcement actions they take in and around the city, as well as right in the city here. And they will quite often get involved in our traffic enforcement initiatives as well. We also have other groups that will come out at Christmas time. If we're running check stops, there's volunteers that sometimes come out, and we want to keep it a positive campaign as well. Sometimes if people are doing what they should be doing, we like to congratulate them as well. That's the Candy Cane check stop. We also work closely with the other detachments within our area, and they will provide assistance if needed, if it's an outlying area. As well, sometimes you'll see them within the city here. They may have whatever business they have that they need to come to the city, and occasionally they will enforce as well here. So,
thank you so much.
thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Harris? Just a second, sorry.
On page 6 of your report, you make reference to patrols in determined hotspots. What's a hotspot? And I presume that they shift from time to time depending on what your earlier comment, the bad guys, a small number of bad guys doing bad things in the same spot all the time, or what's a hotspot?
Yes, thank you for that question, Councillor. We have our in-house analyst now, and she takes a snapshot of where exactly we're having certain offenses happen within the city as well in the outlying areas, and she will provide a ongoing update of where we're seeing increased instances of crime, whether it be traffic related or whether it be break and enters, whether it be mischief occurrences that are happening. And she is also attending our morning briefings on a regular basis now, so we have the fortune of being able to sit down with her on a daily basis. And she provides a comprehensive review of where these incidents are happening. There's also a provincial initiative called Crime Mapping, and you can go right online through the RCMP website and pull up the crime map for the city of Fort Saskatchewan. And we update that on a regular basis, weekly, and it provides a very detailed snapshot of where exactly these are happening, and it's open to the public. Anybody can review that. So that's also managed by our intel analysts. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, and thank you today for being here. I think probably some basic questions. The first one, I don't recall a fatality accident happening in the city. Can you give me some color on that? Where, when? Was it preventable? Is there something we should be doing as a municipality to prevent this sort of stuff in the future, or this particular thing in the future?
Thank you for that question, Councillor. This was before I arrived in Fort Saskatchewan. However, I have looked into it. It was a motorcycle collision that happened at 125th Street, heading east on Highway 15, yet still within the city limits. Is this something that was preventable? This incident, I would say all of them should be preventable. However, there were no charges laid in this incident. This was a single vehicle collision. And do I feel that there was any other involvement from any other party? No.
Okay, thank you. I hear rumors, and I stress rumors only, that the city of Fort Saskatchewan, the issue of drug abuse within our community is growing. Do you have an opinion on that as a police force?
We take criminal drug possession very seriously here, and we work on it exhaustively. This is an issue that's going on in every community right now across the country. Fort Saskatchewan isn't unique. However, we do have addictions issues here, and they go along hand in hand with mental health struggle. And yes, they are here. We're aware of the majority of people who are struggling with these issues within the city, if they're residents. We do also have folks that come from out of town that are involved in the drug trade as well. Would I say it's increasing? I won't make that statement. It is a steady problem that we need to continue to focus on. However, do I believe that it's exploding out of control? No. It is an issue, a social issue that we're seeing in every community right across the country. And it's not unique to Fort Saskatchewan. And it really is a social, medical, mental health issue.
And I would agree with those comments. I don't have an answer, obviously. The people and the community that you surveyed obviously didn't feel that this should be a priority for the next year or two or three, this area?
There wasn't a lot of commentary on the drug problem in particular. That being said, we're fully aware of the spin-off problems that result. We're aware that quite often the break and enters and the property thefts and the vandalisms, not so much the vandalisms, but the property offenses that we're seeing are a direct result of people trying to obtain funds or the ability to, get their drug of choice. And we're fully aware of that, and we will integrate that. That's part of why we are going to actively continue on with our habitual offender management program. We're going to continue our compliance checks and those kinds of things under the crime reduction portfolio.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll come back, Mayor Katcher. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Nguyen?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation this afternoon. My first question was regarding the hot spots, and I appreciate your answer for that because I wasn't aware that was a strategy for targeting crime throughout the community. My second question, I guess a concern that I have is with the priorities, the elimination of employee wellness as a priority, and this is from a personal anecdote that I've heard from a member of the force. And can you give me some rationale as to the removal of that as a priority within policing from the upcoming year, and maybe what measures you have in place to ensure staff health and wellness are taken care of?
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. It is still a priority within our detachment. However, we have chosen not to enter it as a specific priority in our performance plan. And I agree with you, we need to continue working on that because a healthy workforce is a productive workforce. We have taken some other measures to pursue this. We have designated a wellness ambassador within our detachment. One of our plainclothes constables has stepped up, and we are, as a management team, overseeing this in-house, and we will continue on a regular basis to really encourage our members to work together, to play together, to build relationships amongst each other and help each other out. We've had a lot of several significant, very difficult incidents recently, and we're taking the extra step to make sure that critical incident debriefings are happening. We have had some other initiatives to bring our family, if you will, our work family together. This year at our Christmas party, it was an incredible turnout. I believe it was 100%. Everybody showed up. I've never seen that at a detachment before. And it was just a really uplifting event, and to be able to see everybody in that same building, building that positive relationship and getting to know each other. I think that's a good example of detachment wellness and how we're moving forward for that. June 3rd, we have a detachment event scheduled, and that's also being really fostered from within by our membership, and they want to see everybody help be okay. I'm seeing a really positive uptick on members reaching out to others to ensure that they're doing okay. And when I speak about the graduated return to work program and the members who are off duty sick, quite often that results from incidents that they've dealt with at work most often. And so it's our responsibility to ensure that our folks are doing okay and that they're recovering from those troubles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Abatoye?
Thank you for your presentation, Staff Sergeants Hagen and Director Arena. My first question is actually an offshoot of Councillor Patrick's question, Nguyen's question. Sorry, your last name just skipped my mind here. I appreciate that you extensively engaged the community. I just see the list of things you have done. But I'm curious, what was the fourth and fifth priorities that came out of those engagements? And I'm just wondering why you restricted it to just 3 when you had 5 in the previous year.
Thank you for that question. And that's follow up from the previous question as well. And I appreciate you bringing that up. So in my experience, we're better off to focus on 3 priorities and really focus on them and set forth our priorities within those, our objectives within those priorities, rather than getting too many on the go and not being able to manage all of them. In our experience, perhaps 5 can be a little too much to try to manage. We would rather do the best job that we possibly can with 3 priorities and reevaluate next year than have too many priorities and not put a full effort into them. I think we saw a couple of priorities last year that perhaps didn't succeed as well as we would like them to have. And I can attribute possibly that there was a little too much on the plate. So In discussion with the management team, we decided that this year it would be best to narrow it down and really focus on those 3 areas.
Okay, because I heard you say you're not going to stop doing domestic violence and all of those things. You're going to continue to do those, but these 3 are what you're going to be reporting on. So you're not going to be reducing the efforts in the other 2. Am I right?
We're still going to continue on. However, we're not going to be reporting with them and necessarily assigning these specific initiatives to each of them. Yes, we will be working on them in-house. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. My second question is, so in your presentation, you had mentioned that 2/3 of the total calls received were from Fort Saskatchewan. And I'm just curious, in terms of the total RCMP budget, how much does Fort Saskatchewan cover of that budget?
The city of Fort Saskatchewan?
Yes.
I don't have an exact number.
Okay, so maybe that will be Director Rena's question.
Your worship, through to Councillor Abatoy, the city's RCMP contract budget is $5.3 million.
That's the total budget?
That's our total RCMP contracting budget, and that is for 31 officers.
Right. So I'm saying the total RCMP budget, how much does the city cover? 100%? 80%? What is that?
Sorry, we are at a 90% split.
90%. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard.
Well, that kind of ties in with mine. I was just going to ask, so we've all watched movies where somebody's chasing away and all of a sudden they cross the state line and, police can't go that far. So how far afield do our officers go? If someone's crossing the bridge into Sturgeon County, do we keep following if they were speeding, or maybe it's something where you can catch them?
Thank you for that question. The RCMP jurisdiction is Canada. I know that's a broad statement. However, if the crime is serious enough, we will pursue it. We have partners all around us, and that's the beautiful thing about the RCMP. When we need help from Strathcona County, they're there to help us, and vice versa. Redwater, St. Albert, whatever the case may be. We have great partnerships with Edmonton Police Service, and if we need a hand or they need us, then we certainly are able to forge that relationship. If there's assistance that we need on an investigation from an outlying detachment, wherever it be, whether it be British Columbia or Newfoundland, it's quite easy for us to reach out and have that assistance. Locally, we police the majority of Lamont County as well, and a good part of Sturgeon County. So we will continue on and pursue, if there's an offender that it's serious enough, we'll carry on with it. And fortunately, we can get a helicopter in the air. We can reach out to outlying areas. We've got the sheriffs. That's a partnership that we value. We've got also, with the implementation of the integrated program last year, we also have Fish and Wildlife. If they're out there and we're in desperate help, or somebody's in desperate help, they're being dispatched. So I think the partnerships have really grown stronger in the last couple of years, and I think it's working well. I just hope that we get to continue working on those partnerships.
I agree with you there. But I guess my concern would be, do we always have somebody here in the fort, or is there times where all of a sudden everyone's here and they're helping? Not that helping isn't good.
Absolutely. We have shift supervisors on 24 hours a day, and they manage those resources, and they ensure that we always have sufficient coverage within the city here. And if we have to send members to the outlying areas, they will manage that. If we have to call somebody in to help out, if the matters are urgent, we do that, and we'll get people in right away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Yes, thank you. We touched on the funding. We fund 31 officers through our budget every year. Of the 31, is that 31 on active duty, or 31, and of that 31, somewhere around 8 are off work for various reasons?
Your worship, through to Councillor Kelly. So we fund the 31 positions. However, how the RCMP forecasts and how we budget is based on working FTE. So our budget is set up through the forecast of having possibly 26 to 27 officers working. So they factor in those vacancies sometimes for us as well when we're looking at forecasting for our budget.
Thank you, but I'm still confused. We fund 31. At today's date, then, how many people on active duty are in the detachment?
That's a question that the answer to that question varies from day to day, to be honest. So at times we may not have 31 fully capable members who are posted here in Fort Saskatchewan. Therefore, the city isn't paying the wages of those people who aren't actually coming to work, right? If we have a member who's off duty sick, who's got a broken leg, the city's not paying for that position at that moment.
Mr. Fleming, did you want to weigh in?
Well, I'm confused, but please do, Troy. Yes.
Just through your worship, maybe just changing around the language a bit. The city has more or less requests 31 officers. I think within the city's budget, we budget for around 27 or 28 officers, but we only pay for what we actually get. So the actuals are reflective of what we're actually provided by the RCMP. We get billed for the actuals.
Okay, thank you. That helps. So, in my mind, I thought we had 31 boots on the ground. We do not. That's what I understand.
We've asked for 31, assuming we'll never be up to the full complement because of vacancies and whatnot. So the actual amount that we sort of expect to have is like I said, around 27 or 28. And I think at times we get close to that. It's actually possible that if we were fully staffed, we could end up getting charged more than what we've actually budgeted for. That might actually happen this year, I think. I'm led to believe, but we won't know that until we get the invoices, right? So I hope that makes more sense.
It helps. Yeah, I've never had, after 5 years on council, I've never fully understood the concept of how this contract works. Then one last question for the two of you. Is the complement of officers within the city limits and surrounding area adequate in your opinion?
At present, we're adequately staffed. Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Macon?
Thank you. I actually just wanted to make a comment on the staff wellness priority that was removed. The policing committee hosted the town hall for the RCMP and the municipal enforcement, and we helped reflect on the feedback we received at those events. And one of the things that we did is we put up the current police priorities, as well as the opportunity to bring forward new ideas, and we had residents reflect on those ideas. And really, I think maybe one person had put a priority for the member wellness. So when we came back to our meetings, what we discussed was that member wellness was something that we had hoped the detachment would just do all the time, and that was a priority for them all the time. But for the purposes of our police priorities for the community, we didn't think that that was the right fit. And so that, I think, was the direction that we gave the detachment from the policing committee. So Corrine Rayner, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, but that is where the policing committee contributed to that. So I just wanted to add that to a couple of you who had made the comments.
I can just make a brief comment on that as well, is that we did have great discussions around employee wellness and how it just is a priority, and it doesn't necessarily need to be that outward facing priority within the community, and it definitely is something that the detachment focuses on.
Okay, great, thank you. That looks like all of the questions that we've got for you. So there is a motion. Councillor Kelly?
With apologies, I wanted to get back on for one more simple one.
Okay.
The crime severity index. I like our numbers. I don't understand how that thing's calculated. I probably don't have to understand. But how do we compare specifically to the Edmonton region, Edmonton metro region, and our peers within it?
Thank you, Councillor. We're very much in line with other municipalities of our size. I've got the statistics here, actually. We are at 66.8, and the other average for detachments or for communities of our size is 71.2. So we're a little lower.
Very close. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the wish of council, I need a motion. Councillor Blissard.
Sure, I'll make the motion that council adopt the 3 strategic priorities for April 2023 to March 2024 as outlined in the RCMP Annual Performance Plan Update Year-End Report dated May 9th, 2023, being number 1, traffic safety, number 2, police community relations, police visibility, and 3, property crime theft.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure, and speaking to that, those sound like great priorities.
Great, thank you. It's now open for discussion and debate. Councillor Abatoye.
A quick question. So just back to the CSI matter. So you had a chat where you had Fort Saskatchewan municipal and Fort Saskatchewan provincial. What's the difference? Because it's Fort Saskatchewan in both.
So the statistic from Fort Saskatchewan municipal speaks solely to the city, and provincial speaks to the outlying areas. So the areas of Lamont County as well as Sturgeon County that we police.
Right. Okay. No, I support the motion. I think that's you've done a fantastic job, especially, and I think the reason I asked my question about the 4th and 5th priorities because I feel like you really exceeded your targets on these 3 priorities last year, and so seeing it again, I know they are very important. I know you've engaged with the community extensively, but I think it's comforting to know that you're going to continue to do the work, with respect to domestic violence and employee wellness. And I just want to say kudos to you and your team.
Thank you, Councillor.
Great, thank you. I'll just weigh in. I'll support the motion as well. I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do. I mean, police, RCMP, bylaw, you guys have got one of the toughest jobs around. And I know some people say, oh, it's easy, but it's not. I mean, you guys are always running in when everybody's running away. And even the people who criticize you, the minute they need you, they're calling you. So, I thank you for all that you do and know that you are so well respected in this community and thanked by everyone. I mean, even the people who don't like you for a minute, they do like you when the call comes in. I know I asked this question at the community engagement that you had, but what more can council do? Because we were told you catch these offenders and they're out before your paperwork's done. Is there anything more than we can do? Because, it's just a shame that you're rearresting the same people continuously. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I will absolutely pass those comments on to our team. They're doing a great job. Thank you. Speaking to trying to improve where we're at with these clients that we deal with continually, it's not a simple answer, and I believe it comes down to political will, and I think that our courts need to be directed, if that is what the public so wishes, to reconsider perhaps how we're processing and trying to rehabilitate some of these offenders. As you'd mentioned, a lot of these are recidivist offenders, and we see them over and over again. We'll continue to do our part. However, once it's gone through to the courts, it's out of our hands. So I would encourage yourself and council and the public, if they have concerns about this particular topic, to speak to our provincial and federal leaders who are responsible for setting that legislation.
Good. I appreciate that answer, especially we're going through an election right now as well. I think it's good information for them to hear. All right. I'm not seeing anybody else for discussion and debate. So Councillor Blizzard, anything on close? No. You're good? All right. Well, we'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. And thank you for being here this afternoon. It's always nice to be able to engage with you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, councillors.
All right, we'll move on to the next one, which is a letter to our MLA candidates. I think that's Chanel Duguid-Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. Alberta has benefited from continued investment in Alberta's industrial heartland. Both the UCP and NDP government have invested heavily in incentivizing development within this region. These efforts have resulted in considerable success, and Alberta's industrial heartland is poised to welcome billions in projects, including significant investment from Dow Chemical, Interpipeline, Wolf Midstream, Shell, and Northwest Refining. To date, over $45 billion in capital has been invested in the region, and Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association has set a goal of growing to $70 billion by 2030. With this growth comes the need for future planning. Industrial development depends on efficient movement of goods and services. Functioning transportation corridors require long-term planning and investment from multiple levels of government. The Veterans Way Corridor, Highway 1521, is the transportation spine of our community, providing critical access to Alberta's industrial heartland. Traffic flow along the corridor has become increasingly congested with the Heartland's success and must be addressed for traffic and pedestrian safety. This congestion will increase as major projects attract new employees to the region. Fort Saskatchewan completed a transportation master plan in 2018, which recommended widening the corridor from 4 lanes to 6 before the population increases to 35,000, which is estimated to occur within 10 years. The total project includes 5 construction phases and will cost $32.5 million. To complete the 5 phases before 2033, the work needs to be incorporated into construction and funding schedules now. Phase 1 is shovel-ready and will cost $8.5 million. Phase 1 includes widening the most congested portion of the corridor from 4 to 6 lanes and a grade-separated pedestrian crossing. The city is seeking funding support for Phase 1, as well as a commitment for future infrastructure support related to the Alberta Industrial Heartland's ongoing growth. Should it be the wish of Council, a letter will be sent to both candidates outlining the regional need, while also asking the candidates to champion the project should they be elected. Your Worship, that concludes my presentation to Council, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, and I'll just remind everybody that the motion that we'll be dealing with is about the letter to the candidates. We're not rehashing the project today. It's about how we want to address this with the candidates. Councillor Harris?
No questions. I'd be prepared to put the motion on the table at the right time.
Okay, I'll see if there's questions. Miss Councillor Kelly?
Question either, I guess, Mayor Katrov, yourself or Janelle. Sending a letter is fine, and it might get a casual read, it might get no read whatsoever. Is there a plan in place? Have we envisioned a process where we would follow up, maybe verbally with the candidates to ensure that in fact they've read the letter and support, and if they don't support, why, so we can address that?
So I understand there is a political forum on May 17th. So if we can get this letter out to them before that, I think that's a really good place in front of the public to be able to ask them for their comments back.
I would agree with that. I'd like to suggest more if possible, but I'll let it drop. I don't have an answer. Just continue to push would be my perspective on it.
Thank you. So we're just dealing with questions at this point in time. So I do have a question, because this one is primarily just focused on advocating for funding for the road. But when we spoke with Elk Island, they said we need the elected officials to also advocate for the number 1 priorities, number 1, 3, and 4 priorities for schools. And I've also been told by the hospital that they had put in a fund request to do a small expansion out there so they could do surgeries. Is this sufficient? Or is there a way that we need to start upping our advocacy? Maybe I'll push that to Mr. Fleming.
Through your worship, we did talk about what we wanted to keep the scope at, and we just felt for the sake, there are other groups that can advocate for those things, and it's not that council can't pick those things up after the election, but for the purposes of right now and what we want to try to accomplish over the next month or so, I think we just felt that it was in our best interest to keep it simple and straightforward and sort of focused on trying to get a simple answer to a simple question, I guess.
Okay. Okay. And can I just make a suggestion that we CC it also to the EMRB board, because it is a top priority on the IRTMP, and I don't believe they did any advocating for us either. So maybe we can CC them on that to make sure that, you know, that they understand that more advocacy needs to be done. So just a question or a suggestion. Councillor Nguyen?
Yeah, thanks. And just in line with advocating further and, you know, expressing sincerity of this letter, I think it would be great, and this might be in the works already, to have this letter or a follow-up letter with same type of wording. I think it's great. It expresses the needed priority, the entire scope of the project, future phases, to be done post-election, then perhaps fall into sitting. Is that something that we're planning on doing time-wise?
Through your worship, absolutely. Typically, once the MLA is in place, they will reach out to us. So at that time, it would be a good opportunity to communicate this need as well as others.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Before I go to Councillor Harris, so one more question for Mr. Fleming. So we're going to send this letter to the potential candidates. Should we actually be sending it into transportation and infrastructure at this point in time, so they understand, you know, because if we're only sending it to the potential candidates, if it doesn't get elevated up of the importance, then I feel like we're missing an opportunity.
Yeah, through your worship, we aren't planning to do a reach out within the province, within the ministries at this point in time. That is actually something I'm going to have probably another detailed conversation with council. I mean, typically you've got the election where there's not much happening. Then a cabinet gets formed. There may be a shuffling of DMs and ADMs that happens, and then typically from a timing perspective, your advocacy work would start after all of that. So to send anything now, I would worry that it might get lost. But I do want to talk to council at some point over these next 2 months about just changing our tactics somewhat, and it'll be probably an in-camera discussion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Batoye, questions?
Just one little question. Are there just 2 candidates in the Fort Saskatchewan Vegreville area? Because I see that the letter is just addressed to the 2 of them.
You're correct, and we can confirm that it's 2, not 3.
Because I think there's an independent candidate as well.
Yeah, as you say that, Tim.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go to Councillor Harrison for the motion. Push your button.
All good comments. Accordingly, I would move the council direct the mayor to send a letter to the member of the Legislative Assembly candidates for Fort Saskatchewan, Vegreville, requesting support to secure provincial funding for the Veterans Way Corridor Widening Project.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I think we had a discussion about this project not too long ago, and it was killed for a period of time. And I understand that. I think going forward, any funding that we can get for a provincial value to a project that benefits us as well as the province, I think that's the right thing to do. So if we can secure some early commitments from our candidates for this particular project, I think that's a very positive thing. The ultimate net benefit is to the ratepayers of Fort Saskatchewan by reducing the net impact that comes out of taxpayers' pockets.
Okay, thank you. So I'll accept the motion. It's been spoken in favor, discussion and debate. And I just want to throw something out there as part of discussion and debate. So the application for this project actually went in back in the fall. Mr. Fleming did a great job getting it in, following up with them. And it's just unfortunate that we didn't receive any kind of funding or real acknowledgement from the provincial government. And I mean, even up to a week before the writ was dropped, we were still trying to work with transportation infrastructure and the ADMs to see if Treasury would come up with the money. and unfortunately, the last email we got back was everybody was really gone till the 29th of the month now. So that's kind of where it ended up. And so, yeah, we're going to have to really work on our advocacy with these people. But I just want to say to Mr. Fleming that he did try. He tried really hard, got ignored quite a bit. And, you know, we will change our tactics. So, but I will support this letter. Anything on close?
Nothing.
No. Okay, I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. You sure it's not coming up? Do you have your in favor cards or in your drawer? Or you're in favor or opposed, I can't presume. Okay, he's indicated verbally he's in favor. All right, that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we will continue on to bylaw C323, tax rate bylaw. And just before you should both come up. I mean, you should flank him on either side. It looks fabulous. All right. Thank you, Mr. Eamon.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Jeremy Eamon, Chief Financial Officer for the City, and joining me today is Shannon Andruko, Manager, Budget and Financial Planning. I'm here to present Bylaw C3-23, which provides for the collection of 2023 property taxes. I'm also requesting that the bylaw be given all 3 readings by Council today in order to meet production deadlines for the property tax notices, which are tentatively scheduled to go out on May 19th. The key purpose of Bylaw C3-23 is to establish the 2023 municipal property tax rates. This is done in accordance with the Municipal Government Act and Property Tax Policy FIN 27-C. The policy states that the setting of municipal property tax rates requires judgment on the part of Council with multiple key factors to consider: balancing the interests of the overall community, distributing the tax burden fairly and equitably, and maintaining an affordable environment for residents, businesses, and industry. The bylaw also ensures that sufficient tax revenue is raised in order to fund the programs and services that are approved for within the 2023 municipal budget. And finally, it provides for the collection of property tax requisitions on behalf of the province of Alberta and the Heartland Housing Foundation. Provincial requisitions consist of approximately $14.7 million to support provincially funded education and approximately $143,000 to fund the preparation of designated industrial property assessments. The Heartland Housing Foundation requisition of approximately $629,000 provides revenue for a portion of the Foundation's annual operating requirements to supply and maintain seniors' housing within the city. Just as some background, on December 13th, 2022, Council approved the 2023 municipal budget, establishing the city's municipal tax requirement. Subsequent to this, the approved budget was adjusted for several items, including a $713,000 reduction to the approved operating budget. The dissolution of the Regional Transit Commission reduced operating costs by $300,000, and a further reduction of $413,000 resulted from the borrowing bylaw being defeated regarding the Veterans Way corridor widening and North Pedestrian Crossing project. In early 2023, the province announced that the city's 2023 MSI operating grant would double to approximately $421,000. As a result, the funding source for several 2023 approved one-time projects have been reallocated from financial reserves to the MSI operating grant to optimize use of the additional funds. And on April 25th, Council gave Phase 2 budget approval for the JRC modernization project in the amount of $16.5 million. Amended 2023 operating and capital budgets, along with a tracking sheet showing these and other budget adjustments, are included as appendices to the Council report. Growth assessment revenue represents property taxes that the city collects on the value of new construction and improvements completed during the year. The 2023 operating budget included estimated property tax revenue due to growth in assessments of $1.5 million. Conservative estimates are used at budget time since the property assessments are not finalized by the assessors until the following spring. So property assessments have now been finalized, and as a result, it was determined that the city will realize approximately $1.2 million of additional ongoing property tax revenue in excess of the original growth estimate. On April 11th, Council referred the allocation of this additional growth assessment revenue for further discussion, which is to take place prior to the end of Q2 2023, and will include options for service level modifications to fire services. So next, I'll review the estimated annual property tax impacts to both residential and non-residential property owners, starting with residential. A residential property owner with an average assessed property value of $412,925 will see an increase in annual municipal property taxes of $41.33 or 1.86%, an increase in education property taxes of $6.60 or 0.66%, and a decrease in Heartland Housing Foundation property taxes of 6 cents or 0.17%. On a combined basis, an average residential property owner will see an increase to their total annual property taxes of $47.86 or 1.47% over 2022. This equates to an increase of approximately $4 per month. And just to note, the average residential assessed value of $412,925 for 2023 reflects an average increase in the overall market value of 4.59% over 2022. Moving on to non-residential properties. The owner of a sample non-residential property with an assessed property value of $1,006,607, which reflects an average increase in assessment of 4.36% due to market value changes over 2022, will see an increase in annual municipal property taxes of $181.11 or 1.86%, an increase in education property taxes of $58.31 or 1.58%, and a decrease in Heartland Housing Foundation property taxes of 34 cents or 0.39%. On a combined basis, this sample non-residential property will see an increase to their annual property taxes of $239.08 or 1.77% over 2022, equating to approximately $20 more in property taxes per month. Just a few items to note. The education taxes are distributed between the residential and non-residential on the basis of equalized assessments, which are determined annually by the province. And please remember that these tax impacts are estimates only, and examples given reflect changes in assessed property values similar to those experienced in the overall market. So therefore, actual tax impacts could be more or less depending on how a particular property's value has changed relative to the overall market. And just a final note with respect to the annex properties from Strathcona County. The bylaw incorporates the annex properties as per the order in council, which sets out certain conditions that affect these properties, including property tax rates. On May 3rd, Council for Strathcona County passed its 2023 property tax bylaw, which is a prerequisite for preparing the city's bylaw. From the year 2020 up to and including 2049, the annex properties are subject to the lower of the county's and the city's municipal property tax rates. And for 2023, the annexed residential will follow the county's municipal tax rate, while the annexed non-residential will follow the city's municipal tax rate. Administration's recommendation is that Council give 3 readings to Bylaw C3-23, providing for the collection of 2023 property taxes. And that concludes my presentation. Ms. Andruko and I are happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open it up to any questions. Councillor Macon.
Thanks for your presentation. And this question might be for Mr. Fleming. I'm not too sure. I'm just wondering how we compare this to our region, the province. I think in conversations we've had before, that is probably one of the lowest that I've heard of. So I'm just wondering if you understand that to be true still.
Through your worship to Councillor Macon. Yes, I will refer that to Mr. Fleming.
Yeah, I thought so. Thanks.
Through your worship, I haven't had a chance to go through and sort of snoop out because there's what was passed in December. I have a chart of that, but obviously, once final budget approvals are given, I still have to go around and update my chart with the final budget approvals because I know some municipalities were lower than what they projected. My understanding is that this is the lowest property tax increase for an urban area that I've seen so far, I would say across Alberta. I know there's a couple counties, Grand Prairie County and I can't remember the name, Wheatland County or something, were zeros. But other than those, I haven't seen anything as low as this. So I do think that a lot of credit goes to us, mostly on the economic development side, that the revenue from our heavy industrial partners really helped. So,
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The only question that I want confirmation on, so with the annexed area, so I think we're lower than Strathcona County on the amount. So do they receive the lower amount, which is ours, or do they get the amount that it was Strathcona County's?
To your worship, so for the residential, they'll actually follow the county's residential tax rate. For the non-residential for this year, they will follow the city's non-residential tax rate.
Okay.
It's the lower of the two in each given year.
Okay, so it is the lower of the two. And then the other question that I have, because you talk about the new annexed lands, we know there's going to be an ASP coming forward and there's going to be development happening on the one portion of land going to the south. So is that, once anything changes on that, just confirm as soon as there's development that starts, they lose their exemption and they just fall within ours?
To your worship, yes, my understanding is that if a property sells or if the land is rezoned for another particular purpose, I believe they lose that right to the lower of the two.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I'm not seeing any. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Councillor Abatoye.
Okay. I'll make a motion that council gives first reading to bylaw C3-23, providing for the collection of 2023 property taxes.
Thank you. I'll accept that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just to say that I think our administration has done a fantastic job with property taxes. I know that we started at 3.05 and to be at 1.69 now combined. Actually, maybe I should ask this question because when you were giving your presentation, it was 1.77 for non-residential and I think 1.4 something for residential. So I'm assuming the combined is what takes us to 1.69%.
I believe that's correct, yes.
That's correct, right. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I've gone from 3.05% to 1.69, by finding I think we're just blessed, honestly. I think that's just the best way to put it. We're just a blessed community, with all these developments we have in throughout our community. I think it's a really great thing to celebrate. And I think it's just amazing. That's all I have to say, and I'm just really happy to be putting this motion forward.
Okay, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Okay, I'm just going to jump in there, and I'm actually going to commend not only administration but City Council as well. We sit down, we review, and we approve this budget, and it takes a lot of people's input in order to arrive at where we're coming from. So I think it's a good collaborative effort, and I think good decisions have been made for the coming year. And we look forward to all of the projects and work that will be done and providing great quality of life for our citizens. Councillor Abatoye on close. All right. Motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. You can continue.
Sure. I make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw C3-23, providing for the collection of the 2023 property taxes.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to speak in favor?
Just that, isn't it amazing that we are the lowest we have the lowest property taxes in all urban areas. I think that's fantastic, and I'm going to keep saying it. And that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. You can leave your mic on. Is there anything further on discussion and debate for second reading? Not seeing any. I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. You may present it for unanimous consent.
Okay, I make a motion that council provides unanimous consent to proceed with the third and final reading to bylaw C3-23, providing for the collection of the 2023 property taxes.
Okay, thank you. Motion is closed. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously, and you may proceed with third.
Thank you. The council gives third reading to bylaw C3-23, providing for the collection of 2023 property taxes.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any further discussion and debate? Not seeing any. Anything on close?
No, just that we are blessed.
Okay, thank you. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. I will ask, are there any notice of motions? Not seeing any. Are there any points of interest? Oh, not seeing any. Councillor inquiries. Go ahead, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor Catcher. Mr. Fleming, please. As this discussion was going on the property tax bylaw, it caused me to reflect. Would it be possible, and there is absolutely no rush, say for next budget session in October, would it be possible to get a chart that breaks down Fort Saskatchewan versus its peers in the province in terms of spending per capita, spending per household door, and a comparison of the assessment-based residential versus non-residential for each of our peers within the province, although it could be the north half as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll make note of that. I think I have some of that already. The province has it's kind of, they don't call it that, but it's kind of an open data site that you can pull some of that off of, and you just have to get it on an Excel sheet and play around with it. So let me take that away and I'll follow up with council.
And no rush, Troy. I've looked at that website as well. I know the data exists. So yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question as well. So this morning we were out picking up garbage, and one of the biggest offenses that I've seen out there is cigarette butts in front of just about every store. So I guess I'm questioning, is there something that we need to talk to the businesses about to encourage them to put cigarette receptacles at their front doors or something? Because, you know, as we were picking up garbage and litter, I mean, there's just massive amounts of them. And if they get into the catch basins and that, they are toxic. So is there anything we can do to encourage our businesses to do more?
Through Your Worship, in terms of an education campaign for the businesses, I'm sure there is definitely something we can do there. Beyond education, that would be a more complex question. I'd probably need to take that away and discuss with the team, but we can definitely look at doing some reach out to the downtown businesses from an education perspective.
Okay, and just thank administration for coming out and joining and picking up all the litter and everything. There was over 280 pounds picked up, and that didn't even include Ms. Duncan said that there was about 10 bags that were still not weighed yet. So great job. Our downtown looks beautiful right now. So thank you. And our full leadership team was out there helping. Thank you. All right, so I will take a motion to go in camera. Councillor Abatoye, would you like to? Sure. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you put it on the last motion.
I did. So
you did. So yes. So how about Councillor Kelly? Maybe I'll get you. Okay, there you go.
Okay, super. I'd be pleased. I move the council move to in-camera session according to the applicable provisions of our FOIP rules.
Great, thank you. Motion is closed. All in favor, or please cast your vote. All right, that's carried unanimously. We will move to in camera.